The US versus the UK, where do you think salaries are higher? And have you ever thought of the idea of working across the pond? In today's video, we'll be looking at the salaries being earned in the US to find out how much you can earn there and how much it takes to be considered rich. We'll also compare this to that of the UK to see how that matches up. The latest data shows that in the US, there are over 158 million workers in employment, and in the UK, it's over 30 million. So we'll go over the numbers which shows the earners who are in the top 50%, the top 25%, the top 10%, and then the top 1% of earners, as well as what career paths can earn this sort of money. And the numbers I share will be pre-tax. With a caveat, I do want to stress that there are many factors that play into how much we earn. For example, things like the cost of living, houses, taxes, holiday allowance, pensions, and so on. It's all different in the US compared to the UK, and this is something that I will touch on a little bit later in the video. How much do you need to earn in the US for the 50% mark? The median salary, so those at 50% of workers in the US, currently sits at $46,000. This number includes both full-time and part-time workers, which does skew the data. So if we look solely at full-time workers, that 50% mark becomes $57,200. Now, how does this compare to UK salaries for the 50% mark? I did a video about this over here, which you can check out. The median UK income is currently £27,716. This includes both full-time and part-time workers. If we again just look at full-time workers, that salary becomes $33,280. If we convert this to dollars, it'll be easier to compare that to the US. So that number is $41,151. Based off this, we can tell that workers in the US earn more in this category. If we now look at the data, to be in the top 25%, the salary you need to earn in the UK is £40,920. The dollar amount of this is $50,631. In the US, at the 25% mark is $80,002. This comes out to be quite a significant difference compared to the UK, and it makes you think if you could do the same job in the US and get paid more for it. In the US, to be in the top 10%, you need to earn $132,626. Comparing that to the UK, we come out with £62,160, which is $76,392. So again, this is in favor of the US, and we can start to see the general pattern here. To be in the top 1% bracket, you need to be earning £175,416, or the equivalent of $216,807. In the US, that number comes out to $401,622, which at this point is no surprise because the difference is starting to get a lot wider. It's easy to look at these numbers and be alarmed. It's worth mentioning though that the data shows that the ages of people who tend to earn the highest were aged between 35 and 65 years old. People who are more established in their career, which would obviously make more sense. So try not to stress out if these numbers seem far off. Most of these people are high up in their careers and have years of experience. With this all being said, it's clear that in terms of earning potential, the US is a lot more favorable overall. I've placed all the numbers on the screen so you can see the overall comparison here. But comparing salaries between countries like for like is problematic because it doesn't give you a complete picture. The average salary in the US is higher than in the UK, but it's important not to read so much into this. Just because the US worker typically earns more, this doesn't mean that they have more money to spend. There are many factors that determine the disposable income that employees have at the end of the money, including things like healthcare, taxation, and other deductions. Why are UK salaries low compared to the US? UK salaries are low across all demographics for a few key reasons. The UK has far more protection for employees than in the US, and this is paid for in the form of better social welfare. As a result, employees can offer lower wages as they can be confident their workers are able to afford the cost of living. The main differences between the UK and the US salaries come down to the following factors: pensions, healthcare, holiday entitlement, national income, disparity, and the cost of living. And we can take a look at each of these in a bit more detail. In the UK, pensions are mandatory, whereas they are optional in the US. And in the UK, employees contribute a portion of their income towards their pension, and then their employer matches this contribution. In the US, employees can set up their own pension funds, but it isn't something that their employer is compelled to offer. Healthcare. Since healthcare in the US is not free, this is factored into US salaries. In the UK, everyone can access the National Health Service for free. Workers in the US have to pay for health insurance, so employees need to offer higher wages to enable them to afford this. By offering a national health service that is funded by taxes, employees may earn less, but this ensures that everyone has access to basic healthcare. Holiday entitlement. UK workers have access to more paid time off per year. They also get sick pay and income protection. So while they might earn less than their counterparts in the US, they also get the chance to rest and recharge, which can be a very valuable benefit. Income disparity. While this is also a problem in the UK, income disparity across the population is a far bigger problem in the US. This means that average incomes are skewed by very high and very low salaries. While similar, the cost of living in the US is slightly more expensive than in the UK. Factors such as student loan repayments will have a big impact on a graduate's disposable income in the UK versus the US. So how does income disparity impact this data? Income disparity is a gap between the biggest and the smallest earners. While it is a problem in both countries, it's a lot more prevalent in the US. In a recent study, the richest 5% of people earned 23% of all income in the US, while the bottom 20% made just 3% of all income. In the UK, 40 42% of all income went to the top earners, while 7% went to the bottom earners. And things like location, education, social demographics, and taxation will all have an impact on this. Which industries pay the most in the UK and in the US? The highest paying industries vary by country. This will have a significant impact on the average earning. So in the US, the top paying industries are as follows: technology, law, finance, insurance, healthcare, and agriculture. While in the UK, the top paying industries are oil mining, finance, technology, law, insurance. And a noticeable difference I saw was the healthcare pay. In the UK right now, there are plenty of protests for pay restoration, and pay overall in the US is a lot higher. While there are some similarities, subsidization within the healthcare sector means that these workers are paid less. However, perks of the role and job security are thought to make up for these lower wages. Having a national health service means that all healthcare professionals are paid the same for their work, so there are only regional differences to account for places with a higher cost of living. We also need an idea of the tax implications in both countries. If you live in an expensive city like London, being in the top 25% doesn't go far once you take into account the living costs with living in a major city. So the overarching question is, who is richer and better off? Earning a lot of money is one thing, but really to be truly rich, you want to hold assets, so things like stocks and shares, properties of businesses, and pretty much anything that generates you an income. While salaries might be more inflated in the US, it's important not to draw any conclusions from this. The real world take-home pay of workers in the UK and the US is likely to be the same for similar work. And of course, you can't ignore the fact that the size of the US is considerably bigger, so inevitably there are other factors at play here. While there are some opportunities that pay more in each territory, like-for-like comparisons are unlikely to reveal anything other than a different societal structure. So really, to summarize this, is that salaries in the US are higher than in the UK. The UK has wider social protections which protect workers but also keep wages lower. UK workers are legally entitled to more time off, so they work less than their US counterparts. UK workers also have access to free healthcare through the National Health Service. And finally, UK workers also have a compulsory pension scheme which their employer will also contribute to. So while UK workers might be offered lower salaries, the employee benefits and perks of working in the UK will often outweigh the downsides. So clearly there's lots of factors for us to get a clearer idea. But I guess the answer to the question is that on the surface level, the US do earn more. Now, how much do you think you need to be earning to be considered rich? Is that paying off your mortgage, being debt free, or having enough money to leave your job? It's different for everyone. Now, I made a more in-depth video over here about the UK if you'd like to check that out. Thanks for watching.